Why would you put that in your players' heads? What are you talking about? There's a game, there's lines on the field, there's a scoreboard. Play your butt off, period. Which team do you trust in this game? I trust Georgia. I think that the biggest threat to Ole Miss down the stretch is distraction.
Touchdown. These fans are the best in the country. A day like today is why we love college football.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the program. This is the Joel Klatt Show. I am Joel Klatt. This show is brought to you by Graduate by Hilton. We thank them for their support. We've got picks and previews going on today. Cannot wait for this one. Listen, we had a great week last week. 4-0 last week. We're now 24-31. I understand that record is not great, but we're going to inch back there, and we're going to go all the way through the national championship game. We're going to get this thing back on the correct side of 500. I just know it. I feel it. As we get deeper into the season, we have a better understanding of all of these teams. That helps us in these picks and previews, so we've got that going for us. Now, remember, if you have not subscribed to the show over on YouTube, please go do that at Joel Klatt Show. We've got a lot of content up there. We had our rankings reaction that was up on Wednesday. On Tuesday, we dropped another Understanding Football. It's a great series that we've got going on specific to YouTube. Get on over there. Understanding Football. We've got 4 episodes. The latest one dropped on Tuesday. It was about understanding the RPO, the run pass option. So get over there and do that. And then you can always follow us on social media at Joel Klatt Show is where we're at. Wherever you like the social media, we're out there. Our content lives. Here we go. Picks and previews. Week 12. We're getting down to it. Let's start with a game that I'll be at. Gus, Jenny, and I will have the call Big Noon Saturday as Michigan heads to Chicago to take on Northwestern from Wrigley Field. So this is going to be very cool. Obviously, going to Wrigley as an old baseball guy is fun for me. And now we get to see this Michigan team go up against a Northwestern team that has played really well in the back half of the year. This is a very tough, very fundamentally sound, quality, prototypical Northwestern team. And Michigan is going to have their hands full in this ball game. There's no doubt about it. It's all in front of Michigan, as we talked about on Wednesday's show with that rankings release. I believe strongly that this team controls their own fate. They control their own path towards a potential college football playoff berth, in particular with that game looming the last weekend of the regular season against Ohio State. That's the number 1 team in the country. Michigan has 3 games left. They're sitting at 18, and they bring in one of the top running attacks in the country. It doesn't matter who's been in there, whether it's been Jordan Marshall or Justice Haynes. They have been outstanding running the football against some decent defenses and defensive fronts. Chunk plays. Marshall's been outstanding, running the football for over 250 yards as a team in a few of their last few games. So Marshall has filled in so well for Justice Haynes. He's averaging 140 over the last 3. As a team, they've done a really good job. And then, listen, Bryce Underwood has gotten better. I know it didn't look great against Purdue, and a lot of people saying like, yeah, that was a really sloppy game from Michigan. Really, they had 2 mistakes, or else that's more of a blowout victory. They controlled the game on the ground, and then they turned it over twice going into the red zone. Underwood throws a pick. He also fumbled through the end zone, which is, of course, a touchback. I wish they would change that rule, but they don't. So 2 red zone turnovers made that a much different game from a scorer perspective than it was if you just watched the film. So that's obviously something to watch out for. Now, Northwestern's defense, they're going to make Underwood work. They do not give up chunk plays. That's a defense that is, again, very fundamentally sound. They're physical. There's a veteran presence there. And then Northwestern will also lean into the run game. This could be a short game, maybe a low possession, low scoring game. Caleb Komalafe, he's had back-to-back 100-yard games for Northwestern. They've leaned into the run game a little bit. They thought they would be able to throw the football with more efficiency to begin the year, but they've leaned more heavily into running the football. The offensive line has done a nice job. Komalafe has done a nice job. So that defense for Michigan is going to have their hands full, in particular on first down, trying to stop the run. If they can do that, then they're going to put Northwestern in a bind. Watch out for a guy like Derek Moore. He's been a menace off the edge. 8.5 sacks since Big Ten play started. 2 sacks in each of the last 3 games. But they are dealing with a lot of injuries. We'll see how healthy Michigan is, in particular at linebacker. That's been a problem for them. Jimmy Rolder, Cole Sullivan, Jayshawn Barham, all of those guys have been banged up. We'll see if they get back trending possibly in that direction, but we'll see what happens on game day. So that's big noon Saturday. Gus, Ginny, and I will have the call as Michigan travels to take on Northwestern. All right, now let's get into some of these picks. Let's go to the SEC. Monster game in Athens as number 10 Texas travels to take on Georgia, number 5 in the country. Georgia is favored by 5.5. Now, Georgia beat Texas twice last year, once in the regular season in Austin, and then again in the SEC championship game. And in both of those matchups, Kirby and that defense for Georgia did an incredible job of unlocking the pass protection and getting after Quinn Ewers, the quarterback for Texas at the time. You would think or suspect that a similar thing could happen in this matchup. He was able to slow down Sark's offense. He held them under 20 points in both of those games. They had 13 sacks in the 2 games, and the Texas O-line this year has been a bit of an issue. They have been better, I will say that, since they moved Cole Hudson to left guard. He moved from center to left guard, and they have been a little bit better, and because of that, Arch has been a little bit better. But Texas in general is a team that, let's face it, like we haven't seen a complete game from them. And if we're really being honest with ourselves, don't we know deep down that it's going to take a complete game from any team to beat Georgia in Athens? It's what it took from Alabama. They played one of the great halves of football that we've seen so far in the college football season in that win over Georgia in Athens. Ty Simpson was amazing in that game. So you would have to at least believe that Arch at some point would have to go otherworldly and play the best football that he's played in his career for Texas to win this game. You see, if you just boil this down to trust, let's really talk honestly about this. Which team do you trust in this game? That's not a hard question to answer. I trust Georgia. That doesn't mean that it's always pretty, and it doesn't mean that it's always dominant. But I trust Georgia. I trust that they know how to win. I trust that they can do different things to win, whether it's throwing it against Tennessee, playing quality defense at times, running it well at times. I trust that situationally they know what they're doing, like they did against Florida. I don't trust this Texas team because we haven't even seen them put together a full 60 minutes. Even their win against Oklahoma, as impressive as that was, there were moments when offensively it just wasn't clicking. So it comes down to faith. Do I have faith that Texas is going to all of a sudden put something together that I have not seen from them yet this season? I have not seen evidence that Texas can go in and beat Georgia, and I don't think that they're going to all of a sudden do that. Athens is as tough as it gets. Texas on the road this season has not been good. 2 losses, 2 overtime wins. I know that they've got the neutral side against OU, but their roster in those road games they've been able to overcome poor performances and still win the game. They will not be able to do that on the road against Georgia. I'm taking Georgia in this one. Georgia wins this one 31-24. They cover the 5.5. Bulldogs basically solidify their spot in the college football playoff and give Texas their 3rd loss. All right, another SEC ball game. Oklahoma at Alabama. Number 11, Oklahoma at number 4, Alabama. Bama is favored by 5.5. All right, now, I feel differently about this game than I did that Texas-Georgia game. Because, again, in order to win in Athens, Texas has to do something that I haven't seen them do yet, play a complete game. There's not evidence of that. Meanwhile, in this matchup, I look at Oklahoma and I think to myself, well, that's a really bad matchup for Alabama. Now, can Alabama overcome it? Certainly they can. But will it be difficult? Yes. Because what would you do if you were building a team to go and play Alabama? Well, the first thing you would do is that you would build a defense that can get after the quarterback. Check. It's exactly what Oklahoma does. They're number 3 in the country in sacks. They're number 1 in the SEC in yards per attempt allowed. So not only sacks, but good pass defense. You see, because Alabama, as I've been talking about this entire year, they are more matchup specific than most teams because they are elite in one area and have struggled in other areas. Doesn't mean they're a bad team. It just means that they don't have a lot of balance. That's a fair assessment of where Alabama is at, and Oklahoma can specifically take advantage of that because of what their defense does and where the strengths on their defense lie. More specifically on the defensive line, getting after the quarterback, That the game against Florida State comes to mind. If you're going to beat Alabama, you've got to present pressure on Ty Simpson. Well, Oklahoma can do that. So in my estimation, this game, we're going to know everything we need to know early in the game because Bama has typically been good early in the game. And they have trailed off late. We saw that in the second half against Georgia. We saw that, let's see, what was that? Last week in the second half against LSU. So these are games where they trailed off late in the game, and they did not throw the ball as well as they did in the first half. So I think Alabama is going to need to jump out quickly and put Oklahoma into a bind because that offense is not very explosive. One of the other parts of the Bama team that has struggled is with elusive, running-oriented quarterbacks. Castellanos from Florida State. There's been others. Pavia, Sellers, Prabula, they all ran for at least 65 yards when you take out sacks. And so here comes John Mateer. And again, that's a matchup that favors Oklahoma. So I boil all this down, and I'm thinking to myself, boy, I really want to take the Sooners in this game, and I just can't. I just can't. I will take the points, but I cannot in good conscience say that Oklahoma is going to go in there with an offense that we just don't know if they're going to be able to score a lot of points and beat Alabama in particular with that elite passing game. So here's what I'm going to do. I couldn't go as far as an Oklahoma outright. Bama has won 17 straight at home. So give me Alabama in a thriller, 24-21 by 3, but Oklahoma covers the 5.5. Long dissertation to basically tell you, I think that Bama somehow wins the game. Oklahoma covers. What's up, Klatt Show fans? If you're looking for something fun to do or a great holiday gift idea for your friends and family, look no further than SeatGeek. With over 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events listed, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. I personally love using SeatGeek for tickets to games with my boys because I know that SeatGeek has my back. Each ticket has a rating, a scale of 1 to 10, so you know if you're getting a good deal. Green dots mean great deal. Red dots maybe keep looking. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And of course, I have a code for you. Guys, here's what you do. You use code CLAT10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code CLAT10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app, and you can have that code automatically added to your account so you can use it later on in that app, SeatGeek. And thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's show. Notre Dame-Pitt, this is a really good matchup as well, and a matchup that is going to be much more difficult for Notre Dame than people realize. This is a huge game for the college football playoff. We know Notre Dame has a great run game with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, but Pitt comes in with the #1 rush defense in the country as it relates to yards per carry. #1 in the country, specifically built to line up and play well against a team like Notre Dame. So the question is, how will CJ Carr react? How will he play? Can he go and win this with his arm if Notre Dame can't run the football? He's clearly talented, but there's been, as is the case with most young players, a bit of up and down, right? He did not play well against USC, even when they were running the football well. And, they were able to overcome that. I did not love Pat Narduzzi's comments talking about this game. If you have not heard this, Pat Narduzzi, the head coach at Pitt, basically was asked about this game and its level of importance versus the ACC games, because obviously they're still in the ACC hunt. And he said, what did he say? He said, I don't care if we get beat by 100. We just have to win our ACC games. Basically saying this game doesn't matter. I'm like, why would you put that in your players' heads? What are you talking about? Be a competitor. What do you mean? There's a game. There's lines on the field. There's a scoreboard. Play your butt off. Period. I don't understand some of these coaches. They literally throw excuses towards their teams. Hey, here you go. Don't play well. It'll be fine. I don't get it. I don't understand it at all. Pitt, their season has totally changed since they turned to the freshman quarterback 5 games ago. He's thrown for almost 300 yards per game. Now he's going to face Notre Dame. That defense is very good. Notre Dame is #2 scoring defense in college football over their last 6. So, I think it's going to be a tight game. Pitt is getting 12.5. 12.5. And again, matchup. They're great stopping the run. #1 defense in the country when it comes to yards per carry allowed. They're facing a team in Notre Dame that has to run the football, and we don't know what we're going to get from their quarterback, even though he's very talented. Notre Dame wins the game. They're better. They win it, but they don't win it by 12.5. Notre Dame, 20-16, take the points with Pitt and that defense, and 12.5 in the offense that has played well down the stretch. Iowa at USC. Iowa number 21, USC number 17. USC is favored by 6.5 at home. USC's top 5 offense against Iowa's top 5 defense. Let's talk about matchup in this one. I don't love this matchup for USC at all. Will Iowa get into a game that is an Iowa game? Likely, yes. Think about every time that we've seen USC go up against a run game that is going to just try to eat them alive with physicality and straight-ahead runs. Illinois comes to mind. Michigan at moments, even though they won the game, comes to mind. Notre Dame comes to mind. Nebraska ran the football well against them. There is a trend of teams that want to play physical, and then they can against USC. I hate this matchup for the Trojans. I know that they've got explosive players, Mekhi Lemon, Jacoby Lane, King Miller out of the backfield. But this Iowa team doesn't give up explosives. Why? Because they play zone defense and they maintain their levels. Well, when you do that, you don't give up explosive plays. They are relentless in terms of tips and overthrows, getting turnovers, creating short fields, situational football. I think it's going to be an insanely frustrating day for USC's offense because they want to be explosive. They want to be high octane and do a bunch of things and do them well and, 5-play, 6-play drives and get down the field and gain a lot of yards and score a lot of points. And that's not going to be afforded them against Iowa. If you're building a team that you think is like, this team matches up perfectly against USC, and you can't just say like they're going to have better talent, then you would build Iowa. I think they're going to make life difficult on USC, make them go 10, 12 plays in order to score the football. And the weaknesses for USC are specific. It's about stopping the run, and Iowa is running the football really well. I know that they didn't against Oregon, but that's an Oregon defense that's one of the better defenses in all of college football, in particular stopping the run. That's not the case with USC. It's just not. And so if Iowa wants to run the ball, they will be able to. If they do that, they control the tempo of the game. They're getting 6.5, and I actually think Iowa wins this one outright. Again, terrible matchup for USC. It's just one of those games late in the season I don't love for the Trojans. Meanwhile, Iowa, I understand they're coming off of a really tough loss, but this is a team that, generally speaking, continues to play with urgency. They continue to play with great foundations and fundamentals. So I like Iowa 19-16 in another Iowa-style game. They win it outright. I'm taking those 6.5. Iowa wins on the road. All right, how about the SEC? Florida at Ole Miss. This is an interesting one because you've got Lane Kiffin potentially going over to Florida next year. So is he coaching against his future team? Here's one of the things I think is interesting for Ole Miss. And I've mentioned this on previous shows, and I just want to mention it again now. There's an old coaching adage out there that the quickest way to be defeated is to be distracted. And I think that the biggest threat to Ole Miss down the stretch is distraction. And that distraction in the form of the future of their head coach. I don't know where Lane Kiffin is going to end up. I know that Ole Miss is basically telling him, hey, it's a blank check. You tell us what you need to stay here, and we will do it. I have that on good authority. I also have on pretty good authority that LSU is prepared to do the same thing for Lane Kiffin and basically tell him keys are yours. Florida is a job that I think Lane would prefer over the other two, from what I've been told. And they are not quite in the same boat as Ole Miss and LSU in terms of just, hey, sky is yours, name your price. There's more strings, okay? Now you get into this game. Is Lane going to be motivated to beat this team? Yes. Why? because if he struggles in this game against Florida, it will create just a seed of doubt in the decision makers' minds at Florida. And if that's the direction that he wants to go, he wants to make sure that there is no seed of doubt. I think that that is totally acceptable. I also know that this is a team that lost to Florida last year late, probably shouldn't have, but did, and that kept them out of the playoff to the point where Lane was whining on Twitter, and I had to stuff him in a locker, and Lane's the best, and I love him. And here's the deal. I don't think that they're going to be a team that's overlooking Florida this year because of what happened last year. So two different things. Do you have the team's focus? I believe that that's the case. Will they be distracted with what's going on with their head coach? I hope not. Only time will tell, because here's the other thing about a distracted team. You really can't see it until you fall off a cliff. And then you're like, oh no, like what happened to the focus of the team? It's really hard to predict. It's hard to know it until it's off the cliff, and then you can't come back from that. A week after giving Georgia a really quality game, Florida was a mess last week against Kentucky, of all teams. They lost 38-7. Lagway was benched at halftime. Ole Miss is a really good team at home. They've won 20 of their last 21. Trinidad Chambliss has been really good on offense. He's a dual threat, as we know, over 300 yards in 6 of his last 8 starts. I mean, is this Florida team all of a sudden going to play great on the road? I don't think that they are. It's a 15.5-point number at the time that I'm given this. Because of that idea of Florida beating Ole Miss a year ago and that keeping Ole Miss out of the college football playoff, I think you get the full attention of Ole Miss, and you get Ole Miss 38-20, and they cover the 15.5. So there you go. TCU, BYU. This could be a good game out of the Big 12. A week after BYU lost at Texas Tech, now BYU back at home, number 12 in the country, favored by 4.5, only 4.5. I thought that was a decently low number, but you understand, because TCU has some quality elements. BYU still controls their own destiny to go and make the Big 12 championship game. That's an important piece of all of this thing. They can bounce back from that loss against Texas Tech. They're generally a really good home team, and I think it's an underrated environment in Provo. That's a great fan base. I mean, an unbelievable, committed, and passionate fan base. I think Kalani Sitake is one of the better coaches in America. I think that they'll bounce back. He will get these guys back. Don't write off BYU because that Tech team is legit. I think that they lost on the road to a team that's absolutely a top 5-6 team in the country, which they are now reflected in the rankings. And, you know, that's going to happen. They have a freshman quarterback in Bachmeier. I will say, like, you better defend the pass well against TCU, because Josh Hoover and the Frogs will come in and they'll toss it around. BYU needs to run the football, and they need to do it well. They're number 2 in the conference running the football. TCU's decent against the run. They're number 3 rush defense in the conference, but it's not nearly as quality as Texas Tech was, which is the number 1 rush defense in the Big 12. BYU pass defense, they've intercepted 12 balls so far this year. They're going to need to do that again. I think because Hoover averages around 300 per game, they'll stick around. Eric McAllister has been pretty good. He's their top target out wide, top 10 in the country in receiving. But again, I like BYU at home. It's only 4.5. I like BYU to cover 24-17. It's a tough, physical, old team that's going to win this game at home. They know how to play in November. And so I'm going to take BYU to cover right there. So let's take a look at the picks here as we picked them. Remember, Gus, Jenny, and I are going to be live from Northwestern. That's at Wrigley Field as they host Michigan. And then here's the picks. And we gave you a bunch. We got 6 picks today. 6. Okay. Georgia, Texas. I think Georgia wins this football game. I think that they cover the 5.5. So I'm going to give those points and take Georgia. The OU Alabama game is about matchup. It's a bad matchup for Alabama. So even though I'm going to take Alabama to win the game, I think that OU getting the 5.5 is the right lay. And so there it is. I'm going to take the 5.5 with OU. Notre Dame and Pitt, again, bad matchup. Pitt's the number 1 rushing defense, yards per carry in the country. They're going to need to show up against one of the best run games in the country in Notre Dame. And if they do, they will absolutely take that 12.5. And I think Notre Dame wins. Pitt covers. I think they'll take the 12.5 there. I like Iowa outright at USC. Again, matchup. They're going to run the football like crazy at USC, and I don't know how USC is going to get off the field. So I could see this being a 38-minute time of possession game for Iowa. I think SC loses outright at home. So take those 6.5 for Iowa. I like Ole Miss to bury Florida. This is a team that will be motivated. I think that they go out and they play really well. Florida looked like a mess last week against Kentucky, lost 38-7. So give the 15.5, take Ole Miss, and BYU at home. I would give the 4.5 over TCU. That's a veteran team that I think gets a nice win at home. And that's a BYU team that plays really well at home. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe to the show on YouTube. Our YouTube has some really cool stuff, including that Understanding Football. Go out there and watch it. We dropped a new one on Tuesday. The RPO, Understanding the Run Pass Option. We've got that out there. You can follow us on social media as well. Enjoy the weekend of college football. We'll be back on Monday with another recap of a great weekend of the sport we all love.